Well, this video is about my DIY Lagun table, some improvements that I've discovered, and also about the pole mount for my cell boost antenna. So you'll see how these are related, but it came about because I had a revelation about how steel pipe fits together with PVC, both half-inch PVC, 3/4-inch PVC, 1-inch steel pipe, and half-inch steel pipe, how they all fit together. And I thought it was pretty cool. So I decided that such a revelation should not go unheralded, so I decided to do a whole video about it. You'll see what I mean in a minute.
Let me first explain that Lagun is the trade name for a table that mounts on an axis, attached to some cabinet or something, and then there's an arm which rotates the platform or the table such that you can move it around. And it's really handy for putting the table exactly where you want and swinging it out of the way, etc. And I wanted to do the same thing. The thing that put me off about the Lagun table is that, one, it's a certain size dimension, and what I wanted may be a different size dimension, maybe a different height, maybe a different length of the rotating arm, maybe a different size table. And also, Lagun is a really good table, but it's pretty expensive. So I was trying to find a cheaper alternative, and this is what I came up with. First of all, the tabletop is thinner. I only used 3/8 inch birch for this, and I'll show you how I compensated to make it strong a little later. But then it is mounted on basically an assembly of cast iron pipe. All right, 1-inch pipe and half-inch pipe and some PVC there, and I'll go into detail about all of this stuff in a minute. But as you can see, it swivels around pretty well, and also it is very flexible in that I can move it from one mount on this side of the kitchen cabinet to another mount on the other side of the kitchen cabinet. Well, first of all, my tabletop, as I said, is pretty thin. So if I were to just attach the tabletop directly to that floor flange in the center there, screwing it in or even gluing it, it would be pretty weak. So what I did was I put in that vertical crossbar there. That is 1/4 inch by 2-inch wide aluminum. And then I was able to tap and drill those holes attaching the floor flange to the vertical bar there, and then I was able to glue that whole thing to the board. All right, so that's pretty strong. And then to reinforce it, I made a couple of straps on the top and the bottom there, which are 1-inch aluminum by 1/8 inch. And I glued those to the board, and then I screwed them into the 2-inch bar. So I feel pretty confident that this tabletop is going to be pretty strong, even though it's fairly thin. As I said, it's only 3/8 inch, and I made it that thin because I wanted it to be lightweight for one thing, and easily moved around. So the bars made it a little heavier, but I think that the advantage of the strength overcame the weight disadvantage for that particular one. This is a good picture for showing how the assembly fits together. You've got a 1/2 inch nipple which screws into that floor flange on the previous picture, and that's screwed into a 45-degree cast iron elbow, which is then screwed onto a 1/2 inch piece of cast iron steel pipe. All right, that's inserted into another section which consists of a 1-inch cast iron steel pipe with a 3/4 inch PVC filler in it. Now, this really illustrates the core of one of the biggest difficulties I had with this DIY Lagun table assembly, and that is that it would make more logical sense perhaps to have a 1/2 inch steel pipe inserted into a 3/4 inch steel pipe to constitute the sliding mechanism, right? The difficulty is that a 1/2 inch piece of steel pipe doesn't fit into a 3/4 inch piece of steel pipe. That is, the outer diameter of the 1/2 inch pipe is greater than the inner diameter of 3/4 inch. So that means you have to go the next step up. You have to go to a 1 inch outer piece, and then you've got a lot of slop in there. And that's how I built it initially, and I really wasn't too satisfied with it. It kind of wobbled, and it really didn't work that well until I discovered you can actually insert a piece of 3/4 inch PVC in that 1 inch steel pipe, and it's a really tight fit. You have to hammer that 3/4 inch PVC into that pipe. But once you do that, the 1/2 inch steel pipe slides very smoothly, and it's tight in there. In other words, it isn't wobbly, but it fits very well inside the 3/4 inch PVC pipe. And that was the key to this Lagun table to make it really work well. And you see there on the bottom, I'll talk more about that mounting, but again, I can put that the other part of this 1/2 inch pipe inside that 3/4 inch PVC on the bottom there, and it rotates very smoothly. And I can lift that whole assembly off very easily, leaving the 1/2 inch piece of pipe there, or actually pulling the whole thing out and disassembling it. And I can also adjust the height of the 1 inch piece, the 1 inch the 1 inch pipe, both the vertical piece and the horizontal piece. I can adjust the height, whatever I want those to be. I can put in a set screw, drill a hole, put in a set screw, and I can adjust that to whatever I want it to be. Okay, now let's talk about the mounts a little bit, because there are two locations that I want this Lagun table to work at. One is at the right side of the kitchen cabinet, and one is on the left side of the kitchen cabinet. And just note that I can tighten this. This looks pretty loosey-goosey when I'm spinning around there, but I can tighten that up to make it put as much friction in there as I want. That's one of the advantages of this, is it's infinitely adjustable. The first mount that I devised was a piece of 1 inch pipe, basically bolted onto a piece of 1 inch L channel, and I didn't have that PVC insert in there originally, and it did wobble around. I tried to compensate for it. It wasn't level, so I tried to compensate for it by racking this. You'll notice it's not quite perpendicular, and I was trying to adjust. I was trying to play with it, and I was never really very happy with it. And then still, it's a little bit not level. So, but now that I've figured out my coupling system, I'm going to go back and adjust that mounting bracket to make that completely perpendicular, and it should work very well. But let me just say that this is a very strong mount, and one thing that I really underestimated in building this table is the amount of force on that bottom mount, because you've got the table there, and if you put something fairly heavy, maybe an Instapot or something like that on that table, it creates a pretty substantial force. And if this is the only mount you have to your cabinet, and it's the only mount I want, because I want to be able to move it around, and I want to be able to move it easily, from one location to the other location. So I want I only want a small footprint on my cabinet where I mount it, where I attach the table to the cabinet. And so this has to be really strong. Okay, and this is a very strong mount. This is stronger than the second one, which I'm going to show you in a minute. And it works very well, but it's not flexible, because you drill these holes and you tap them, and you don't have very many chances to get that exactly right. I guess you could put some slots in there and make it a little bit more adjustable. I can see that now, but I didn't do that originally. So originally it wasn't very adjustable. In my next iteration, I will make it more adjustable, but this is actually a pretty strong mount. So this is the mount that I created on the other end of the cabinet, and originally I did not have those hose clamps there, and I also didn't have a piece of 1 inch pipe So I decided I was just going to use a piece of 3/4 inch PVC because I discovered how smoothly my 1/2 inch pipe fit inside my 3/4 inch PVC, and then take a couple of straps, electrical conduit straps, and attach those to some little brackets that I pounded out, aluminum brackets, and I basically bolted those to my aluminum cabinet. Now, the difficulty with this is, as I was telling you before, the forces on this thing are pretty strong, and what I noticed was that those electrical conduit straps started bending, okay, pretty easily. And then I thought, well, I'm not going to scrap this whole thing, so I just added these hose clamps, and that seems to fix it pretty well. So this is a pretty strong clamp, and it doesn't require having another piece of 1-inch pipe, to slide it into. So I'm fairly satisfied with it now. It doesn't look the best, but I think it's pretty strong and it'll work. So overall, I'm pretty happy with this Lagun table. I think it works pretty well, and it's infinitely adjustable, so I can adjust it. I can change the tabletop size, and I can change all of the dimensions on it, the height and the reach and the friction and lots of other things. So I think it works pretty well. So next I took this concept of the nesting the PVC in the 1-inch pipe and applied it to my cell boost antenna mount. Now, the way this works, this came from WeBoost, and the antenna actually attaches to an extension that they give you, and then that extension fits inside the hole on top of the mounting bracket, and then you screw a nut onto the bottom of that, and that secures the extension and the antenna to the mount there, which you're supposed to actually attach to the ladder on your RV. Okay? Well, for me, that was kind of a pain in the neck, because for one thing, I have to take this thing off every time I go into the garage, or else it's going to break off. And for another thing is, you have to unscrew that nut every time you want to put it up or take it off, and that is kind of a pain in the neck too. So I essentially devised a system where I could very easily mount this to my bracket using this modification of the mounting bracket, which I'm showing here. So here I had a small chunk of that 1-inch pipe left over. By the way, what I found, the easiest way to cut this pipe is to use an angle grinder. Just so you know, I mean, a hacksaw, you'd be working forever using a hacksaw. An angle grinder works best for cutting this steel pipe. But nevertheless, okay, so I got the steel pipe and I put the 3/4 inch PVC in there. I pounded it in with a hammer, and I extended the length of it a little bit. And then I strapped it onto the ladder bracket for the WeBoost antenna mount. And then I put a little shelf on the bottom of it, that triangle, because what's going to slide inside that 3/4 inch PVC is a piece of 1/2 inch PVC, which is going to basically be approximately a little bit longer than the antenna extension pole. All right, so the whole thing looks like this. So here's what the assembly looks like. I've got the antenna connected to the extension, and the extension slips inside a piece of 1/2 inch PVC, and that whole assembly slips into the 3/4 inch PVC, which is hammered into the 1-inch pipe, which is attached to the angle bracket which is attached to the antenna mounting bracket that WeBoost gave me. All right, and the whole thing is such that the cable can fit down through there, and it will extend through the bottom of the 1/2 inch PVC easily, and connect to my cell boost amplifier. Now here's where it gets interesting. So instead of inserting that antenna with its extension pole into my 1/2 inch PVC and then slipping that inside my 3/4 inch PVC, I can actually slip that antenna and the extension pole into a piece of 3/4 inch PVC, which is 8 feet long. Now you ask, well, how do I attach the 8 foot long 3/4 inch PVC to the 3/4 inch PVC insert in the steel pipe? And the way you do that is you use the 1/2 inch stub as the connector between the two. In other words, you put the 1/2 inch stub inside the 3/4 inch sleeve, as I showed before, and then you insert your 3/4 inch 8 foot long piece on top of the 1/2 inch stub. The end result is that you've got this pretty tall pole. This is 8 foot long, and it's pretty strong because it's 3/4 inch PVC, and it's fairly secure at the top because it's got the full length of that extension, down inside the PVC. So this is pretty slick. Now you might ask, how do I store such a beast? Now recall that I have all this storage space under my PV panel, and so I can slip my extension pole up underneath the PV panel, and then to keep it from falling out the back, I just take a little bungee and hook it on to one of my cross pieces there, and I think it's not going to go anywhere. Now I suppose you could tie it to the end piece there so it doesn't rattle around quite so much, but I actually haven't heard it rattling around that much anyway. So anyway, that's a minor detail. So anyway, I thought this was a pretty slick solution to my pole mounting problem, being able to transport it, get enough height, and make it easily assemblable, I guess you should say. It doesn't take too much effort to put it all together, and I think it's fairly secure the way it's attached there. So I think I'm going to be happy with it. I'll let you know if I have any problems down the road. So for now, I guess that's it. I'll see you in the next video.